All right, in this video we are going to write a polynomial function in factored form, and we will then find the zeros of the function and graph the function. Okay, so let's start with our polynomial function. So we're going to have x cubed plus 7x squared and plus 10x. All right, first thing we're going to do is write this in factored form. What does that mean? We're going to factor it. So we have a common factor of x in all of these, so first thing I can do is factor out an x. What's left over is going to be x squared plus 7x plus 10. Now, if I look at the quadratic that's left over, this is still factorable. So I'm going to bring down my x, and we're going to make two sets of parentheses. I'm going to have an x and an x. And numbers that multiply to give you a positive 10, but when you add them together you get a 7. Well, they have to multiply to give you a positive, so they have to have the same sign. They add to give you a positive, so they're both plus. How about 5 and 2? Because 5 times 2 makes 10, and 5 plus 2 makes 7. So this right here, what we've just done, takes care of step number 1. Write the polynomial in factored form. Okay? Now, step number 2, we are going to find the zeros. So what does that mean? It means take every factor, set them equal to 0, and then solve for x. So my first factor is x, so I say x equals 0. Then I say x plus 5, the second factor, equals 0. And x plus 2, the third factor, equals 0. Okay, now what's really cool here, the first one's already done for us. X equals 0. So what does that mean? 0 is one of the answers. 0 is one of the zeros. See, zeros are places where the graph crosses the x-axis. In other words, they're the answers. Okay? So next, I'm going to solve this one for x by subtracting 5 from each side. And I get x equals negative 5. And I solve this one by subtracting 2 from each side. And I get x equals negative 2. So my 3 zeros, and you notice my degree of my polynomial was 3. I had 1, 2, 3 zeros. So your degree is the same number of zeros. That's pretty cool. Now last, I get to graph this function. Alright, I'm going to pick another color here. Why? Just for fun. No other reason. Okay, first of all, I go to 0 on the x-axis and I plot 0. Why? Because it crosses the x-axis at 0. It also crosses the x-axis at negative 5. So negative 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's negative 5. Okay, and it crosses at negative 2. Now, what we need to do now is find out what it does in between each of the points. All right, what we're going to do is we are going to make a table. Now, since this value is negative 5, I'm going to go one left of it. Now it will be negative 6. So let me get a table here. Now, we pick x values, we plug in and we get y values. Okay, so I need to try -6. Try some of these in between here, and I'm just going to pretty much go -6 all the way through 1. So when x is -6, I've already got these on my graphing calculator. I have -24, so that's like way down there. And then at -5, we know it's at 0, because how do we know? Well, right there, it's one of our zeros. At -4, we are up at 8. -3, when I plug that in, I get 6. Now we know at -2, we're going to have 0. That's where it'll cross the x-axis. Okay? Then at -1, we are at -4. At 0, we are at 0. Why? It's one of our zeros that we already found. And at 1, we are up at 18. Now, if I only had to get an estimate of my graph and not have to draw an actual graph, since this leading coefficient is positive, I know it would be down here, cross here, turn around here somewhere, cross here, curve again, cross here, and just keep going up. So that is like really, 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 really cool. Okay, now -24 is like way down here, and we're not going to mess with graphing that. We just know it comes from real steep. Okay, at -4, we are up at 8. So let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me put some more marks on here. 6, 7, up a little more, 8. Alrighty. So at -4, we are way up here. And that's about the point where it actually curves too. Okay, at -3, we are down at 6, so 7, 6. Right about here. Okay, and we know at -2, we're at 0. At -1, we are down to -4. So right about there. Okay, now these points are all over. Remember, this graph is more of an estimate. We go up, 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 curve, go down, cross through this point, curve through this one, curve again, cross through here, and go pointing up. This little bumpy here does not really belong. I'm just not very steady. Okay, now that is an estimate of our graph. Not too bad. And it is what a cubic function looks like. You notice two curves right up here, somewhere around where x is -4 and y is 8. And another curve down here around where x is -1 and y is at -4. Pretty awesome. All right, enjoy these things. I know you will.